My husband and I, both in our early 30s, have been together for over a decade and made the decision not to have kids. I like kids, I have nieces and nephews, but we just don't want them for our own reasons. He had a vasectomy, which only a few people know about. Our families are aware we don't want kids, as they've asked us before during different major life events. Our wedding, for instance. We recently bought a 3-bedroom home with a nice yard in a nice area. Excited to show our new home to family and friends, major upgrade from our previous home, we hosted a housewarming. During the party, one of my sibling-in-laws, Alex, made a few indirect comments about all the space and how kids would love it in our house. Eventually, they asked point blank when we were having kids. I made a lighthearted joke about it, which is my go-to for this question. Oh, well, I like sushi too much to have to give it up for pregnancy. Plus, not drinking for pregnancy and breastfeeding? No thanks. I try to make it very lighthearted and laugh it off. Most people just laughed along. That seemed to anger Alex, and I was told, children are a joy and a good mother puts her kids before everything else. I agreed. Children are a joy. I like spending time with my nieces and nephews, and obviously I can't be a good mom if I chose sushi over kids, so I just won't be a mom. I was still trying to brush it off in a gentle way because I'm not trying to start a fight by telling them to stop asking in front of everyone because I know my tone will be seen as rude and abrasive. We move on, but Alex is still annoyed and making little comments in their group about how flippant I am about it and how when it finally happens, then I'll understand. My husband heard this and said jokingly, well, if she gets pregnant, that'll be a problem for the divorce lawyers. That seemed to piss them off more, but they stopped. With the holidays coming up, we haven't been invited to Alex's usual Halloween bonfire. When my husband spoke to his parents, they told him that Alex was annoyed that we were so careless and callous about our child-free status. They had realized that we had taken permanent steps to ensure we never had kids. Alex said we know that they had to do IF treatments just to have kids and that we're assholes to just not care. I feel bad because they did do IF and lots of fertility treatments to have their kids, and even then they still had a few miscarriages. I can't imagine wanting kids and struggling to have them and then deal with miscarriages. But at the same time, I'm so tired of justifying and living my life how I want to. I guess I hurt their feelings by saying that I prefer sushi to children. Am I the asshole for saying that?
Hi, it's Kai and I'm back with another story time, and as always, it's not about the client in my chair. I know y'all tired of hearing it because I'm tired of saying it. But let's get on to the story time. So, sorry about the glitches. I don't know what's going on. But I don't know if anybody else finds this annoying, but I find it extremely annoying when a parent watches over me while I do their children's hair. And I don't mean like staring, you know. I mean like literally right behind me while I'm doing their child hair. And not only hovering over me, but like commentating on everything I do. I had this one mom come in to get her daughter hair silk pressed. And I believe it was her first silk press. So the little girl was animated. She wouldn't stop moving, talking, turning around. And I kept telling her to please sit still. Her mama is still hovering over me, but still not telling her to sit down and be still. So when it came down to the trim part, I expressed to her that I need her to stay completely still. Literally, once I started trimming, she turned her head around and I cut about a ½ inch more than I was supposed to cut off. Her mama was so mad at me and I was so confused. But so the mom had looked at me all upset because I accidentally cut off a ½ inch of her daughter's hair while she was moving. And y'all, I'm so confused because like if you watching over me, hovering over me, tell your baby girl to stop moving. So now I'm finishing the trim and I hear her in the background on the phone, literally on the phone, saying to someone that I messed her daughter's hair up. And like she just talking like I'm not even in the room. So I turned back because she's still hovering over me and she looking at me like I said something wrong. So at this point, I'm just ready for them to go. So I finished her daughter's hair and I turned her around. She's smiling and whatnot. And I looked at the mom and she frowning and whatnot. When it was time to pay, she told me, y'all, I assumed there would be a discount since you overcut my daughter's hair. Y'all, it was a ½ inch because her daughter kept moving. So I explained to her why I couldn't give her a discount, especially with all they put me through. But I did offer her some free treatments and she declined them. She told me she was never going to come back here again. Tell people not to come to me. But business been great.
Alrighty, since it's November, I'm going to tell you guys about the time my grandma actually tried to poison me and my mom on Thanksgiving. So I was like around the age of like maybe 7 to like 10 or 11 years old. I don't remember. And we went over to my grandma's house. Now we went over her house in like the middle of the night. So it was like nighttime when we got over there and we were tired. And my grandma was like, no, we have to stay up to make dinner. That's a tradition, da 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 da. And we all looking at grandma like, girl, you only make like 5 things that could all be put in the microwave. We don't need to be up. So we all decided to go to sleep. And since my grandma don't have no beds in her house, we all are sleeping on the floor. My grandma gets mad. She gets furious. She's in a tizzy. So instead of going to sleep like a normal person, my grandma instead is walking back and forth from the kitchen to her bedroom. And as she's doing so, she's stepping on us the entire time. And she does this multiple times because she wants to make dinner. So my mom gets fed up after like the 13th step on her glasses. She's like, all right, we finna get up and we finna be in the kitchen. So we all get up and we're all in the kitchen cooking the 5 things. And I'm gonna be honest, there wasn't even room for all of us to be in the kitchen to be awake at that hour. So in my grandma's house, we have to eat everything. Like, we have to get a little bit of everything because she cooked it. So out of all the little 5 things, she makes like turkey, she makes ham, she makes this stuff called apple salad that got raisins and mayonnaise in it. I can't explain why she does that. And after, you know, she got done cooking, she makes like 5 different types of dressing, or AKA stuffing. And I don't know what possessed her to do that. And I don't like stuffing. So I'm like, Grandma, do I have to eat this? I'll just eat the turkey, ham, and the apple salad. I'll even eat the apple salad. And she's like, no, you gotta eat everything. And so I was like, fine, man. So I put all the 5 different kinds of dressing on my plate and I eat it. And then the next day, y'all, my stomach was on fire. It felt like somebody went inside of my esophagus, slit my small intestine, and dipped out. My mom's, she was suffering too. She was throwing up. We was all crying and throwing up on the toilet, on the trash cans, in the bathtub. We was in the bathtub with it. And we was like, dang, like it had to have been the food, because it's like, there's no, I get sick, but like my mom gets sick. I was like, all right, you know what I mean? So we asked my grandma, we was like, Grandma, what all did you make last night? Da, 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 da. And she's like, oh, you know, this, that, and the other. She showed us the containers that she bought the stuff in. And then she gets to the dressing and she goes into the freezer and she pulls out these bags that I'm not even shitting. Said 1998 on them. I was born in 98. You mean to tell me? I was like, Grandma, what? Are you serious? She was like, yeah, you know, if you freeze it, it's still good. We ain't never been to my grandma's house since for Thanksgiving. She literally tried to fucking kill us. And then she didn't even...
Story time, and this is Katie's story. When Katie was 16, she used to run track and cross country, so she used to go on a lot of runs. Initially, Katie used to run on roads, but she got catcalled a lot while running on roads, so eventually she found this trail by her high school that she could run on. The trail passed next to a park, and it passed next to a field where a lot of teams would practice, and eventually it would turn and pass next to her high school. So it seemed like a pretty safe trail to run on. There was the park, there was the field where people were practicing, there was her high school, there were people who would actually walk on the trail, like there were people around. Safe trail, right? No. So this one day in summer, Katie is running on the trail at about 9 p.m. And if you're wondering why she was running at 9 p.m., it was summer. It was hot. It was still light outside since it was summer. It felt safe to run at that time. It should have been safe. So she's running on the trail. She passes the park, she passes the field, and right before she gets to her high school, the trail kind of turns and it's this bend that's kind of hidden away from the park. So Katie is in that section, she's running, and she passes this guy who was in that bend. And right after she passes him, the guy starts running after her. And then he starts hissing at her like a snake. So Katie is running, the guy is right here like a foot away from her, hissing at her. And she keeps running. And then he goes, "Are you scared of me? Are you scared of me?" So Katie is obviously scared of him. And she starts booking it to get to the end of the trail and get to a major road. So she's running, the guy is running after her, saying these things, hissing at her. And eventually she makes it to the end of the trail and she turns around and she sees the guy at the top of the trail, or like, you know, a few meters behind, just standing there staring at her. Katie runs home. I think this is a really important story to share just because it shows how often and how regularly women are harassed when doing normal day-to-day things. Katie was just on a run. There were people around. This shouldn't have happened. And someone said that in society, we are currently teaching girls and women to shrink their lives by being safe. So for example, some of you are going to say, well, she shouldn't have been running at 9 p.m. Why not? It was light outside. It was hot. There were people around. It should have been fine for her to run. We can't keep shrinking these girls and these women's lives to be safe. Instead, we have to do more to educate boys and educate men to respect women, and for them to also challenge their male friends who harass women. So if you have a friend who harasses a woman, whether you're a guy, a girl, non-binary, it doesn't matter, please challenge them or educate them so that we can stop this, and so that women can go and do normal day-to-day things without being harassed, so that a 16-year-old girl can go on a run without being chased by a guy and be hissed at and be asked if she's scared.
Story time about the best thing I saw while working in a restaurant. We've got a veteran who comes in on the regular named Hank. Hank lost his leg and hand in Iraq. When seeing this, people will often pick up his tab when he's in here, but he never feels like it's deserved, so he tries to lay low. He wears long pants to cover his prosthetic leg and doesn't wear anything to show off his veteran status. He doesn't like attention and it's clear he doesn't feel special treatment is deserved. So obviously we shut down because of COVID. We reopened when our state did, but after a week of indoor dining, the owner decided to go back to delivery and takeout for everyone's safety. Thankfully, business is still booming. I don't know the specifics of Hank's situation, but I think he lost his job sometime during the shutdown. Before COVID, we'd see him at least once a month, but this was the first time we'd seen him since we reopened. To make matters worse, he would easily put away 6 tacos or a whole chicken plus sides and plenty of beer when he'd come in, but this time he just ordered a small burrito and a water. He didn't mention the different order though, just said how excited he was to come through again and looking forward to it all week. We put in his order while I went to go get him paid up. However, his card declined. I started to tell him, but he could see it on the screen and went, shit. Shame and panic washed over his face as I tried running it again and again when he gave me another card that declined. Meanwhile, it was the height of lunch rush and the line was getting longer, so people were peering to see what was taking so long. After running Hank's cards a few times, all of his cards declined. He started saying, hey, you know what? Did you actually make the thing yet? But then the bag came out with his name unmistakably on it. He started digging around his pockets for cash and came up with $5.25. The meal was $7. I told him, don't worry about it. You'll get us next time. Knowing how embarrassed he got when people tried to cover him for a good reason, being a veteran, and not wanting to pile on by being forward that I was covering him for a not so great reason, hard times. However, he wasn't entertaining the idea of taking food without paying it in full. Finally, without making eye contact with us, he said, no, it's okay. I'm just gonna go to my place and get some more cash. However, I knew that look on his face and the tone in his voice. There was no more to go get. It's a look and tone I've used myself and seen from others more times than I wish I had. I wanted to insist he take the food, but I wasn't sure which was worse. To force food on him and risk damaging his dignity, or to let him save face but go without the lunch he's been looking so forward to. Before I could decide, the girl behind him, who had been texting for most of our transaction, had just begun to tune in and caught the last bit. She asked, hey, what's the difference on what he owes? I said, $2. She went in her purse and handed it right to me. Hank started to try and hand it back to her, telling her it wasn't necessary, but she cut him off. She cut him off by saying, no, it's $2. We've all been there. Enjoy your lunch. As he finally gave in and went to put her money on the counter, she noticed his prosthetic hand. She did a double take and said, actually, no, you know what? Let me get the whole thing. Give him his money back. Then went in her purse and got the rest. He tried to stop her from doing it, but she replied, listen, I hope I'm not being presumptuous, but you're a veteran, right? He nodded. Yeah, that's what I thought. I served 2 hours in Afghanistan. There's a guy walking around on false legs out there who's the reason I'm walking around at all. So please, allow me to do this and don't think twice about it. I tell you to just get anything you want off the menu if times weren't so tight for me right now too. At this point, an older guy with a bow tie came up and announced, I couldn't help but overhear. Put both their tabs on me, get them anything they want, and then get them some more. Thank you both for your service. Hank was getting pretty emotional at this point, but even still, they both started to vigorously protest to the man that he didn't need to do that because it was their job and they both signed up for it. Bowtie guy wouldn't hear it. He must have had his own story because he got red in the face and blinked back tears but stayed silent. He left his credit card with me and went back to his spot in line. That's when another guy stepped up to the register. Part 2 of the best thing I saw while working in a restaurant. This guy handed me his card as well and said, yeah, I'm gonna split that tab, so really guys, go wild, you're American heroes. They both empathetically told him no, they're not heroes, but this guy cut him off saying, oh please, I get overwhelmed playing Call of Duty, you're heroes and I'm glad to thank you for it. So they started ordering and the girl knew just what she wanted. Hank asked how much our steak and rice platter special would cost. Older bowtie dude called him not to tell him the prices and get him whatever he wants. He came up and said, son, no one can put a price on your sacrifice. Call of Duty guy splitting the tab chimed in, the meat that we're giving you is a lot less valuable than the meat you gave up for us. His friend elbowed him to shut up, horrified, but it got a belly laugh out of Hank. Throughout this, no one noticed not only had Hank lost his hand, but also his leg. His pants covered and he's got too much honor to bring it up. By now, the kitchen got a whiff of what was happening and loaded them up real good. This lady was so moved that she paid for Old Man Bowtie and Call of Duty's meals. It was a domino effect. The owner was so disturbed that 2 veterans had struggled to pay for their meals. He instituted a military gets the special free day of the week even though we've been hemorrhaging money since the pandemic closures and keeping the doors open on a week-to-week basis. Hank told all of his veteran friends and they've been coming in with their families. It's been great for business.
Am I the asshole for not giving my brother my college fund after he was cut off for coming out? My 18-year-old brother recently came out as gay and my grandparents, who are homophobic AF, like they don't even hide it, didn't take it well. My parents obviously support him coming out, but my grandparents have cut him off financially. See, for all of us, my grandparents set aside separate college funds over the years. We don't necessarily have to use it for school, which was my case. I'm 27 years old and I had a son my second year of college, so I decided to get into an apprenticeship program instead and use that money for baby expenses and to save up for him. My girlfriend and I are managing well working full-time. We don't touch that money at all unless it's for him. My brother knows I still have this money and he's asking me to help invest in his future since it was always a given that our grandparents would pay for his college. Our parents are well off financially, so he wouldn't receive much in terms of financial aid, but they don't want to cover for college tuition because he's an adult now. My sister already graduated and used what was left of the money to put a down payment on a house. I'm really his only option and he's desperate. Because I'm refusing, my brother is calling me a traitor and it's not fair for him to be cut off like this just because he's gay. And I agree. Nobody's happy with my grandparents, but we're using this